Order 2 white toast.
What's happening for him?
No, I think that's enough.
Whamstein.
What's the deal with RPG Maker games? No, seriously. Why are there so many? Why are they still being made? Who is consuming these? The answer to that last question is me. I eat these games up like a fat kid eating candy at the Candy for Fat Kids convention. Hi, I'm Whamstein, and I'm here to talk to you about RPG Maker games. Specifically this one, Toasterdog In Dreamworld, where you play as the titular toaster dog in a dreamy world. But before we get into that, let me paint you a picture. Now imagine this, if you will. You're a spry young lad prowling the interwebs for some new strange. You like video games, but mommy and/or daddy won't give you their credit card for a shitty Steam port of a game you've never heard of. What's a youngin' to do? Well, if you were smart, you found itch.io. That's what I did, at least. This story is about me now, not you. Get out of my imagination world. Back in my day, it was incredible to be a young boy with unsupervised internet access. I don't know how it is for the kids these days, but judging by the states of Twitter and Reddit, I can't imagine it's going all that great. I think what they're really missing out on is all those free game websites we used to have back in the day. If it weren't for the likes of Kizzy, Congregate, Armor Games, and many other websites, I'd simply be a completely different person than I am today. They made me the hipster I am proud to be. Why else would I be stretching out a stupid video about a 2-hour demo you've never heard of? It's because I can't get my kicks from the usual suspects anymore. My old bitch wife can't get me hard, so I have to go play with the freaky bitches. Sure, in the process I might catch a virus, but that's the price of doing business. That's what I need to do to get my rocks off. We can save my dark, twisted, demented, fucked up backstory for another day though. Let's get back to the topic at hand. Toasterdog. What's going on here? As I offhandedly mentioned before, this demo is only 2 hours long. At least that's how it's advertised. It's a great demo, and God only knows if it's getting a full release. I pray it gets a full release. For all the stereotypes and preconceived notions your mind may conjure up on hearing unfinished RPG Maker game, you're not wrong to think so. But this one stands out amongst those. This is the second game to come from developer Sebastian, also known on Twitter as Dizzy Spells. You may recognize them for their choice artworks, but they're also an incredible visionary. Their first game is another hidden gem world called Bugger World, and aside from some similarities, it's not quite relevant to today. Though they do both star dog protagonists. Speaking of which, I will be spoiling fucking everything that I have seen across my handful of playthroughs. So if you enjoy esoteric world building, strange humor, incredible artwork, and decent RPG combat, I would recommend you spare the handful of hours it takes to play this. I'll leave a download link below. With all that being said, let's return to our esteemed Poosh of the Hour. Rat fight. This is our first look at combat, and if there's one word I'd use to describe it, it'd probably just be simple. But that's not a bad thing for the most part. Turn-based RPGs are usually, wrongfully, accused of just being menu clickers. In most cases, I'd type up an angry essay about bloodlines and graphic violence, but here it pretty much is nothing but spam and confirm until it's over. It's not that brain dead, but while we're here, let's go through the basic options you have. There's your standard attack, defend, items, and your special attacks. These are pretty typical options for RPG combat. The only thing that you're really missing here is an escape or a run option. You might think, based on how I've referred to it so far, that you're just spamming the basic attack. But surprisingly no, you're going into your special attacks and spamming Toastillery. But how can that be viable? Special attacks use up a resource. In most cases, in most games, you'd have to use a mana potion or an item of some kind, and that's not staying in the same menu and spamming an attack. So what gives? Well, wouldn't you know it, right alongside Toastillery is an ability called Recharge, and like its name implies, it recharges your resources, HP and MP. So if you ever noticed one of your two little gauges getting a little bit too low for your liking, pop Recharge and just keep spamming Toastillery. Eventually, your opponent will die. So yeah, it's not completely brain dead, you have to pay a little bit of attention, but it stays this way for the most part for the whole time you play. Occasionally some fights will throw out a telegraph for a big attack, which basically screams in your face that you have to defend, but other than that it is pure offense. If this were any other game, like say for example, if this were Lisa, I'd probably be pissing, crying, and shitting my pants right now. This would be terrible. But this isn't Lisa. This is Toasterdog. We clowning this motherfucker. Speaking of... After having physically assaulted the first living creature he's ever met, Toasterdog enters an office lounge with very subtle hints that the employees here dine on his toast. They do appreciate his work. This will make it all the easier to convince the boss that he deserves a raise. And look over here! There's a man spewing some kind of hate speech and telling us not to use the employee water cooler. But Toasterdog is a gang-ass so he drinks from it anyway. This is our save station in the game. Here's your homework. I want a 12-page essay about why the save station in an office building setting is a water cooler, and I want that on my desk by midnight. The only other stuff lying around here are some consumable items, and they're cool additions, but ultimately not completely useful in combat unless you're really fucking up. It's better that they're here though, even if I don't find them completely useful or meaningful. Moving on and... This has nothing to do with us. Mind your fucking business. We only want to raise. Generally speaking, in terms of themes, I don't know if you're picking up on it yet, but there's subtle hints of comparison between corporate jobs and a cult. I know, it's borderline invisible. Even a literary genius such as myself can barely pick up on it. Maybe it was the office workers in hoods and robes, the evil candles, the esoteric symbols scrawled on all surfaces, this man who performs a luck ritual on Toasterdog, or maybe it was the talk about this ascension that tipped me off, but it all comes down to a very I don't like office work atmosphere. Or maybe that's me reading too far into it. Maybe the figurative curtains are blue just because they look nice. Even if the sentiment is there, it doesn't seem to be the big picture going on, as we'll come to see. But it does add a good comedic layer over the top of it all, without directly having a line of dialogue where someone says,
God bless the shareholders. I sure love selling my soul for an insignificant increase in company profit.
Though with the tone of this game, it might just fit in. With another save station so soon, right next to a big robed man, I'm sensing a conflict is brewing. Let's test this theory. This fight here will introduce us to the concept of guarding and multiple targets. I know, some really advanced shit, you never heard of this before. Occasionally, Thimble Dimble here will do a sort of self-buff, which acts as a very big neon sign telling you he's gonna pop your pussy sideways. All you have to do in response is press defend and you'll be fine. He'll do a series of maybe 7 hits that each do 1 damage if you defend. I know, that sounds ludicrous, but believe me, you'll survive somehow. I have no idea how bad it hurts if you're not defending. I'm not stupid enough to test my luck. Some poor bastard gave me a whole ritual for that luck. I'm not throwing it away like that. The obvious multiple targets are these two little succulents that stand at either side of them. The only thing they're really capable of is falling over and kind of scratching you a little bit. It's nothing devastating, but they can be annoying, so you're going to want to take them out first. Once those two are out of the picture, it's back to the old 1-2 with the occasional defend thrown in, and before you know it, it's over. We sure watered those plants, huh? Also, if you're wondering why I'm going so into these fights, even though I think they're not all that engaging, shut up. They're fun to talk about. Here we can take another break from the gameplay and talk about a little something called... You may have asked by now, if the combat in this RPG isn't the reason to play, why even bother? If you are asking that, you're an idiot, but I'll break it down nice and simple for you. Video games are really special because we get to place ourselves directly into a completely separate world and interact with it in some form. A lot of people love nothing more than coming home from their 9 to 5 and putting on a shitty little game. One of the most important parts of creating the escapism for people is a world full of... What does that even mean, though? The direct definition for atmosphere is the pervading tone or mood of a place, situation, or work of art. In simpler terms, it's like, you ever play a horror game and you just stop for a moment? You're surrounded by death and decay. There's usually droning, harsh music, or maybe it's just complete silence. Add in some dull color palettes and dark visuals. This all adds together to create the... In that kind of a setting, you can tell without any words being said that there's something deeply wrong and unsettling about the situation. This all matters because if there's any good reason to play Toasterdog, or really a majority of these free itch.io games, it's that goddamn can they build unique atmospheres. I've been around the block a couple times, so to speak. I'm old enough now to drink, and I've spent most of my life having been supplemented by the internet. One of the most important parts of my development as a child was finding Flash and Newgrounds and all kinds of browser games. So I really have to say thank you, Mom, for not watching me when I played these. If it weren't for those browser games, I simply wouldn't be as supportive as I am of deep underground niche indie shit. And what kind of uptight asshole artist would I be if I weren't pretentious and talking about indie garbage? Toasterdog has an incredible art style, with great designs, with wonderful level design,
compared to most RPG Maker games,
with unique music, and it all builds up this surreal yet familiar world that we don't belong in. We don't really get AAA games anymore that do this kind of thing. There was that... Fuck, I can't be bothered to remember the name. Rick and Morty dude made a game with a talking gun. You probably know what I'm talking about. Terrible, annoying, and completely wastes the concepts of absurdity and surrealism. That's the closest the bigwigs have gotten to tapping the gold vein of weird shit the tiny little indie solo devs are making with toothpicks and spit. Why does that matter though? Why would you ever care about a dog that's a toaster if Call of Soldier Big Black Backshots 43 is available? Well, it's this little concept called the industry sucks dick and I like to view games as art. AAA isn't giving us art. It's sticking its fist in your ass and tearing your intestines out in fucking front of your face. Because they view you as a tool and a wallet and nothing else. If you're one of the many people that have taken to social media to bitch about games being bad these days, take like 5 minutes. Go find something that isn't from a megacorp. They're absolutely everywhere. Play Fuda Fix, Dick Dine and Dash for all I care. But seriously, it's easy to find games nobody's talking about. These lonely solo devs and 3-person teams need some serious loving, and they're a great alternative to Diablo 4 having a fucking battle pass. I want to euthanize the people at Blizzard. Enough of my incoherent ramblings, who cares anyway, let's talk about video game. Psych! I'm talking about atmosphere more, but now I'm gonna use shit from the game. First, let's get the most obvious thing out of the way. The music in this game is fucking abrasive. Let's take, for example, the rat fight theme and the Thimble Dimble fight theme. I'm pretty sure the rat fight theme is a Nero's Day at Disneyland song. It says so in the fucking files. It's fitting though, it's Toasterdog's first exposure to violence. You may not have known this, but violence is not very pretty. It's not a good thing. I'm sorry to break the news. So just like the song, violence is crashing into Toasterdog's world. He doesn't really understand it yet. That's why he thinks he's made a friend after the fight. The song itself I can't really comment on. It sure does sound like Nero's Day at Disneyland. That is to say, a 15-year-old that wants attention sure would like it. Go listen to KMFDM, you fucking poser. Thimble Dimble's fight theme, though, is a completely different story. First things first, let me see if I can list out each of the instruments I hear in this. There's obviously the drums. I think there are some maracas. I think those are clackers in the background. There's that weird slidey string. There's 3 guitars. I think there's some sort of a fiddle, or maybe it's a violin of some sorts. And there's maybe 2 of those weird fucked up kazoos or horns. I can't tell what they are. As you can tell just from me listing off the amount of instruments, this is a very intense and chaotic song. And that's very fitting, seeing as this is a self-proclaimed master of martial arts that we're fighting. The instrument choice itself is also very appropriate, seeing as we are fighting a cactus man. It's a fairly short loop, which is really the only gripe I have with it. I would say it's my favorite song in the game, but we're yet to see that one. Moving on from the music of the game, we can talk about the artwork. Firstly, how about them character designs? From both TDs to then those cultists that we were talking to. There were also those two little cactuses that flanked Thimble Dimble in his fight. Up ahead, there's even better designs that really push what this style can do. All that's to say that Sebastian, or Dizzy Spells, has a really unique way of designing characters. I'm sure most people wouldn't be able to take either idea of the toaster or the dog, mash those two together, and make a floating robot. That speaks to a level of creativity only this dev has. And not only is there that level of creativity, but there's also a great sense of shape language, silhouettes, and colors, and it all bleeds into this strange, bright, yet horrifying world. And honestly, it feels like a lot of those old RPG Maker games that got famous were really trying to go for something like that. Splashes of cartooniness and bright colors, but they never really felt the way this game does. And that's not necessarily bad, they were all doing their own thing. That's just me saying that Toasterdog is simultaneously hitting some nostalgia points for me, as well as showing me something I haven't seen before. And that's the thing that I really like about these kinds of games, is that they show me things I have never seen before. Seriously, I'm begging you, this game is just the tip of the iceberg. Go and experience some of these for yourself. Don't let hack losers that only talk about games after they get popular teach you about these. Please. Anyway, we've discovered what all kids desire for Christmas, an old man on life support. Let's boot him up and see how he runs. There's something deeply poetic to be said about a toaster dog feeling insecure in the face of a machine that doesn't even make him obsolete. It cannot toast, and yet he feels threatened all the same. Perhaps this troubling scene is a metaphor for our own world. The white man fights the black man, despite both serving two yet equal functions. One to watch Super Eye Patch Wolf, the other to watch Kai Cenat. Both of these peoples are of equal value to this earth in completely separate ways, yet they view one another as having taken purpose from the other. The only way to regain that purpose is with violence and malt liquor. This can be taken even further, but I don't feel like it, because I'm a liar. This fight introduces us to status effects such as fire, it hurts you over time, and poison, it hurts you over time, differently. They're nothing crazy, at least nothing you shouldn't have seen a million times already in other games, but it's a nice switch up. It's very welcome too, because now we have two party members, and if you think that changes how combat flows, it doesn't. Thimble Dimble doesn't have the same special resource as us. He's got to use his basic attack to build up his mirror. With him, it really is just pressing confirm every turn. That being said, it's still a nice enough shake-up so that we're not bored. It's entertaining to have to get a hold of our new companion whilst in the midst of mortal combat with our arch-rival. It's still really simple, but our hero being framed for a short while as flawed and trouble is fun, especially because this is all a joke and none of this matters. I think the whole section is optional. With the defeat of our mighty nemesis, we can finally deliver our new toy his warm bread, and god damn it, who broke it? I just fucking got him. He was mine. He was mine. The next fight is really soon, so I hope you don't mind me going on another old man shouts at cloud type tirade. From my previous ramblings, two important questions came up. If gameplay isn't the focus, why even play? And secondly, if it's so good, why isn't it popular? These are both pretty simple answers, but I'm gonna stretch them out to waste our time and for the sake of, quote, pacing. Firstly, we have to talk about gameplay and why despite the combat not being revolutionary, it's still an important part of the game. Do you remember Mad Father? Have you even heard of Mad Father? It's been a while since it was relevant. Anyway, what matters here is that it was another RPG Maker game. The style at the time, though, for RPG Maker was puzzle games without any combat, typically horror games in some form. This is all to say that a combat system isn't necessarily what makes these games worth playing. What you're playing a game for is some level of entertainment and enjoyment that you get to interact with directly. Otherwise, you could read a book or watch a movie. Games are for hands-on interaction and using the gameplay as a vehicle for a story. That's how Toasterdog does it. The fights aren't going to push you to your limits for hours on end. These aren't raid battles or anything too challenging, but they're here to tell you something about the world. If we're going to go off the idea that there's a message of disdain for the white-collar American workspace, then maybe the rat stands in for consumerism, blind consuming and willing of doing violence to get what it wants more of. Thimble Dimble could represent how cool it is to attack people, and they'll always want to be your friend afterward. The microwave, obviously, is a metaphor for race relations. Cutting the bullshit, the fights are showing us different kinds of adversity and what Toasterdog is willing to go through in order to get this raise. He's willing to stoop to new lows and hurt people to get more money. Nah, that's just me reading too deep, isn't it? Unfortunately, without a full game of sorts, I can't come to some great conclusion on what this truly means and what the greater story represents. But they've been a great way to break up the pace of wandering around and talking, in the absence of puzzles, which in theory may have been the better choice, but who fucking cares? I'm not a game designer. I'm having fun. It's short, I'm losing nothing, and it doesn't have to mean anything deeper or be anything deeper. That being said, if I think so highly of this game, and others in the circle of deeply obscure indies, why aren't they more well known? If I think it's so good, why isn't there a Toasterdog 2 Escape to Africa already? That's a little trickier, but there's a couple answers for it. The easiest one is that it's not necessarily palatable to the general gamer. This doesn't completely add up because being undesirable is why me and I'm sure many others started playing Dark Souls. I'm sure you've heard of Dark Souls. To blame them being less than ideal to the layman also implies that they've even heard of the games, which brings me to what I think is the real culprit. These games have almost zero reach outside of the audience that already eats them up. Every now and then we get an Ao Oni, a Lisa, a Fear and Hunger. Sometimes they blow the fuck up and people rediscover a side of gaming they forgot existed a couple years ago. Think about it though, how many thousands, and I do mean thousands of games go unheard of or completely unplayed before a single one gets picked up by the masses? For me, it's almost maddening. These games are on sites that most people aren't visiting in their spare time with zero marketing. That's partially why I'm astonished people haven't picked this one up. Dizzy Spells is decently popular on Twitter. They made a post promoting the game. I have no idea why it hadn't spread farther, but I guess it doesn't matter that much because at least someone, me, is talking about it. Don't I sound like a jackass, huh? Alright, let's get back to it. This guy here is Soul Killer, and he's how I really knew I wanted to make a video about this game. I was tossing around a couple ideas, but being asked if I had my "I'm not gonna kill you" pass blew my mind. But we're gonna save the comedy talk for later. First off, real charmer, isn't he? He sets himself up with a big show and follows up with the first fight where I actually feel consistently threatened. Firstly, he can and will take multiple actions in a turn if he feels like it. He doesn't have a huge arsenal, but he does have a really intimidating presence and packs a fucking punch. I will say, I have slipped up on my commands a couple times because I saw my health getting a little low and panicked, forgetting that I can't attack yet, I need to re-up recharge. Ultimately though, with the small selection of options, it's the same strategy as before, just with a little more tension on top, which feels good. I'm particularly fond of his version of the Telegraph in Big Hit. He pulls out a line such as, or, followed by fucking chunking your health bar, even while guarded. He's a beast. But just like any good beast, we'll yeller him. Remember, we're the good guys. That corpse isn't our responsibility. This will be important. Now wait, hey, really quick, remind me in a minute I need to water the flowers. Now we're moving towards the end, and shit is gonna get dark fast. For example, Evil Blood Hallway. But that was just a jape, we'll be fine. Something I really appreciate about this game is just how surreal each new room feels. There's obviously some level of familiarity, office buildings aren't anything new, but throw in a sudden cave walkway dotted with windows, and an entryway into a hospital room. It's inspired to say the least. That's what artistry first can allow for games. There's ways to manipulate our understanding of the world that really only someone that already has an eye for it can do. This game isn't even the best example of that, but it's by far one of my favorites. Here we come across our first objective resembling a puzzle. It's not complicated at all. The door is locked and you can see the key back there and hey, that vent looks awfully familiar. It's probably nothing. Key obtained, and I took a minute to look in my inventory, and that reminded me I have a bug in here. Where'd he come from? The passive NPCs you come across in this game are great. They're really heavily front-loaded with all those office workers, but I think it's worth it. Their kooky dialogue and nonsensical horseshit really helps ease you into the world around you before throwing you into the deep end with the classic boss fights a party member battle with Thimble Dimble. Our little buggy friend here was hiding in the janitor's closet with one of the workers gathering his nerves for the upcoming ascension. Odd fellow, I hope he's doing great now. That's enough reminiscing. Let's eat the bug and check out what's inside the big trailer. Sorry, I mean let's check out what's in this trailer. Yeah, tonally it's getting a little darker, but visually we're already there. This is what I like to call how to make good horror the easy way. Obviously a good color palette and soundscape helps, but you know what takes it up a notch? Scary dialogue and minor puzzle elements. I know, you were thinking the same thing, wavelengths and such. We cannot progress until we interact with this monitor here. So what's the big deal? That's the big deal. Up until now, we haven't had much insight into what the Ascension is, and what it may mean. But in here, we're gonna get a good look at just what it may imply. Another great aspect of the underground types of games is that they'll just throw in anything they want without the fear that they'll alienate their audience in some form, or cause some dissonance, because that's what the audience is asking for. I want just anything and everything that comes to the devs' minds, and if that's throwing in a sudden horror section, by God, it's what I desire. This is setting us up with an even better idea of what the Ascension is all about, but I'm going to refrain from commenting on it just yet. We need a few more pieces before we can really get a full idea of what we're dealing with here. I really do appreciate that even though it's not much, having to navigate around just a little bit extra and pay attention just a tad more is nice. Hopefully with the full game there will be even more involved puzzle elements, but with just this I'm satisfied as it allows for a controlled delivery of the narrative and intentional flow for the tone. Speaking of which, believe it or not, we still don't have all the information we need just yet, but we are ready to meet the Dark Spawn. I hope you're prepared, because you really have no idea what's in store. This is unlike anything the game has thrown at us before. If you thought Soul Killer had a hell of a presence, then let me introduce you. Behold, the Child of Darkness. Let's talk about comedy. It's not very subtle, but that's a pretty major aspect of this game's tone. Don't get me wrong, there are some heavy themes at play that we have yet to see, but I'd be lying if I didn't say it's, as far as the demo goes, a very light-hearted experience. For fuck's sake, we play as a dog that's a toaster, and his companion is a cactus in the shape of a man. It's kind of hard to take it all so seriously. But that's exactly why this section is so strong to me. There's clearly an understanding of what makes good horror, and it builds very steadily across this whole section, leading to this intense crescendo moment where there's this indescribable monstrosity is supposed to be revealed, and it's just a fucking League of Legends player. The dedication to the punchline is what makes this even better for me. I was shocked my first time coming across this, absolutely stunned, because it really does feel like we were about to go into another boss fight, and possibly the biggest, most stressful boss fight possible. Yet ultimately, the disappointment of it being this blobby fucking oaf man is even better than what I could have imagined. He's lazy and likes to talk big game, as all WoW players are likened to do, and instead of a climactic fight, we have to feed him. Do you think he has a shit bucket? Like for underneath his gamer chair? Do you think he shits in his gamer chair? Ominously, there is a blood vending machine. God only knows why that exists. We can get a pretty good idea just based on the logs and who he is as a fat stinky gamer. But it doesn't matter. He wants blood soup. Give him blood soup. He loves it, and we're rewarded with the ability to fucking leave. There's also this compliment machine over here. Let's say hi. How comforting. Say bye to the My Hero fan and we can get out of here. Ratchleys did say we made a powerful enemy, but I'll be honest, I didn't expect a rematch. Now don't let a familiar face trip you up. This fight is a lot more involved. And look! We finally have access to new abilities. Unfortunately, we won't get to use them all that much, as this is the last battle of the demo, but that leaves a good taste in my mouth for the full game. My strategy is to take out Guts Orb here first, because he'll keep raising the defenses, making it harder to take out everyone. We can out-heal the incoming damage if we pay attention, so getting rid of their protection is priority 1. After a little bit of time, yet another rat will be summoned, and this guy fucking sucks. but in a good way. He's got a single move. It's high priority, and all it does is negate one of your turns. This is less punishing if one of the rats is dead already. But even with all 4 of them, it can still be managed. You're just gonna have to put up the effort. Isn't that exciting? Effort? In my experience, he mostly goes for Thimble. Doggy Style usually gets his attacks off first anyway, so if it does hit him, he'll probably have already acted most of the time. Ration out your action economy, and it should be relatively simple. Once IRAT is dead, it's basically over, which feels great. It's like coming down the other side of a steep hill. I really do hope the full release is sometime soon, because I want to see what the next rat fight could be like. He's kinda silly, but still able to come off as intimidating. It's impressive characterization. Hey, I don't remember, did we water those flowers yet? Now we can finally put together a decent idea of what the Ascension is. Despite the Dark Child coming out as a stupid trash wad, it's still a source of some sinister power that is needed to ascend these people. They want control and power so bad, they're willing to create a twisted, fucked up, demented, and evil form of life to further their goals. Amidst all this, the world outside seemingly doesn't sound like it's holding up all that well. Probably due to SICKOS having so much power and influence. The Ascension is going to be catastrophic, and even though all we want is a raise, maybe we can make a stop along the way to prevent, what could be the end of all life as we know it, if we have the time. And that's Toasterdog and... Hey, wait a second. We need to water those flowers, come on. See, that tube key we were given didn't go away. If we go up to this vent, we can use it. And look, we're back at those earlier vents. Use it on this one and... Oh. This is new. I said a little bit ago something about there were some heavier topics that we weren't yet seeing. They're gonna be here. You are being warned. Full disclosure, this entire part is going to be me improvising because I simply cannot script this. I'm only saying this because I imagine it's going to sound completely different from how I talked for the rest of the video, which was scripted. The most obvious thing when walking through this area and talking to these funny cats is this theme of, I'm interpreting it as depression and some kind of guilt. Like there's all this talk of, oh, get out of bed, go get some fresh air, open the door, which is very thematic of, you know, if you've ever been depressed or you know someone who's depressed, it's kind of hard to do something so basic yet so, I guess, helpful to yourself. It's hard to get out of bed, it's hard to open a door, it's hard to wake up and smell the roses when your world is kind of upside down. One of the ones that really struck me was that this cat that says, you know, the smell, wet viscera, smells like a pig trough, smells like a dog kennel, and it smells right. I don't know, something in there is implying to me some level of trauma. You know, I'm no psychologist, I'm no smartman, but I've played a lot of horror games. I grew up in a good time to be able to be force-fed gore videos, so I guess this is just a self-reflection, maybe it's me seeing myself with just those words, but it really came across strongly to me. Another one of the ones that I particularly saw, that where I get the guilt aspect from, is the cat where you interact with him in the kitchen in the little house, and he says something, and you interact with him again, and he says you can forgive yourself later. That's not me just interpreting that clearly means to some degree a level of, you may have, whoever this is, whoever AP Dog is compared to Toasterdog, whoever AP is, had fucked up. There is something bad had happened. Going back to the depression angle, this watering the plants. Have you watered the plants? Don't you feel like watering the plants? Why don't you go water the plants? Hey, did we forget to water the plants? Go water them. This is one of the best things you can do for yourself, to help yourself, is have routine, have hobby, have something to distract yourself from, I don't know, inner turmoil, and just a simple action of reminding yourself every day. You know, you can maybe go on a walk, you can go jog, you can work out, you can draw, you can do something to distract yourself for whoever. I'm guessing AP Dog, which is implied to be who we are in some aspect. I'm guessing this AP Dog has some kind of depression, and there is an idea of, shit, This is why I script. There is this idea that maybe this is their way of trying to help himself, trying to corner that darkness is to, and forget about what the darkness is, to water the plants, which backfires because it sends us into the actual last fight of the game, not Rat Fight 2, but with these two. HS clearly stands for heat signature. Looking through the files of the game, I'm pretty sure they outright say heat signature or something along with, or probably not, but you know, bright red and all this flashing and all that. It comes across as this is supposed to be heat and very dire, and I assume the big trauma thing causing depression, causing the end screen of the game to call you a straight up say, rest well monster, sleep well monster, that comes from the inner turmoil of potentially having killed people, maybe inadvertently, or maybe God only knows. But that's my interpretation of it. That's how I'm viewing this scene, this section. That objectively, blatantly comes out of nowhere. Borderline has nothing to do with the rest of the game. Aside from these themes that we have been stacking on of what's the term for it? When we killed Soul Killer, we just Toasterdog and Thimble Dimble avoided it. They did not want to talk about it. They just wanted to move on. It's what was the term? But it's clear that there is these ideas of this isn't our fault. We can't be blamed for this. This is clearly I don't look at me. It's not. There's no owning up to it. No, there will be no closure because there is none to be gained if you cannot reflect on yourself first. This game's about a toaster dog, a dog that's a toaster, and his friend that is a cactus man. Also, you hear me sniffling a lot here because I am getting over a 2-week sickness, and I couldn't wait to make this fucking video any longer. I've been wanting to do this for like a month, 2 months, 3 months. I've been trying to do this for a while, so I wasn't gonna put it off anymore. I was finally in the state where I could fucking do it, and I recorded, even though I'm sick. That's why I sound like shit, even during my scripted bits. Back to the final fight. I really appreciate the complete change of combat to dictate a complete shift in perspective. This is not the same two characters we have seen already. AP Dog is something else. And we have 3 options. We have that basic attack, which, you know, I just watched my fucking recording and I can't remember what it was. I can't remember what the options are called. But there's that basic attack, and then there's the 2 specials, which is to target and rearm. Target, making the enemy you choose take more damage, and rearm, completely healing you. And I don't think it does anything else. I think it just completely heals you, maybe makes you do more damage. I don't know. And yeah, your only objective is to it's just kill. That's why lean towards this idea that this is not this is a traumatic memory of sorts. Because it's heat signatures, there's no personality here. There's no humanity or any level of sympathy able to be given. Like, compared to Soul Killer was a person. The rat had a face. It could talk. Fucking the microwave had fucking personification applied to it by Toasterdog. There was a fat blob man that we should have been able to fight and kill. But these two red lights, we completely can't interact with at all, other than snuff it out, get rid of it. And that hurts. I imagine that it hurts. And that's why it's such it's so prominent. It feels like it leaks back through the rest of the game, retroactively. Seeing this puts into perspective that Toasterdog, or this some higher consciousness in control, is not as innocent as it is coming off as. And that's all I've got for Toasterdog In Dreamworld. It's a cute, quick little RPG you can find on itch.io. Link is in the description. I really do hope you check it out, even if I spoiled it. Completely spoiled it. It's 100% worth experiencing at least a little bit. And it's only... if you skip through all the dialogue and just speed run it, like, it's like 50 minutes. But I wouldn't recommend that. That's not fun at all. You want to experience something rather than, jump through it and you don't want to be one of those people that goes, I did it. You want to actually do it. Or you should want to. And while you're at it, go play some other weird, underground, unknown games. You might just stumble on the next big thing, for all you know. Come back next time when I talk about, I don't know, probably Bugger World. I might do fucking Suits and its sequel. Probably Bugger World, though.